Hey guys, Kakarot197 again. This time with a review of one of the more hated and memed real grades, the Zeta Gundam from the Zeta Gundam anime series. And this thing was provided to me by my favorite online hobby store, Hobbylink Japan. So if you too want the Dark Souls of Gunpla, links down below. And let's immediately get the most controversial part of this review out of the way. No matter what people say about how bad this thing is, if you're careful with it, you're getting an absolutely beautiful real grade straight out of the box. Just look at all of the details on it, the two-tone colors, and all of the stickers we're getting. Honestly, I had such a blast building this thing that I went out of my way to apply all of the stickers, which isn't something that I always do. The only required ones are the eye stickers, of which we get two options, the simple all-in-ones, which I used, and the black background with each eye separate. And then there's also one for the main camera and one for the back camera. However, none are completely required because there's a blue translucent piece behind everything. I don't know why they didn't go with green, but I guess there's a reason for it, but whatever. Things on the inside are also pretty cool. Because of the transformation mechanism, it's not as elaborate as some of the other real grades, but I still found it very satisfying to see how that mechanism came together. This is not to say that this is a kit for everyone though. I enjoy tackling the many small and fragile parts, and I also had no issue with finding which part wasn't perfectly aligned to allow those two damn pieces to snap together already. The real grade line is something that beginners should stay away from to begin with, and this over-engineered kit especially isn't beginner friendly. Heck, even more seasoned Gunpla builders might want to stay away if they're just looking for the average easy to build Gunpla. On to the accessories and the weapons then. Starting with what's already on the machine, on the head we get the Vulcan guns, which are really nicely detailed, even to the point of on the inside we get the actual bullets being fed into the Vulcans. On the arms then we have a hatch that opens up to reveal two small grenades. And to give it a Zeta Gundam more grenades, we also get these two ammo packs that simply go onto the arms. The side skirts then open up to reveal the beam sabers, which are usually quite secure in there, but of course this one time on camera it decides to fall out. Not to say that this is a super secure model kit otherwise, but whatever. We get two beam saber blade effect parts that are the length of the new high grade ones, although they use the same connection as the master grade ones, and you can see they are slightly shorter, so if for some reason you want to give your Zeta Gundam a really long beam saber, you can use a standard master grade effect part too. To have the Zeta Gundam use it then, you use one of the two articulated hands and slot the peg into the palm. The peg by itself isn't the most secure thing around, but once you wrap the fingers around it, it's good enough to hold a pose. The beam rifle then is a completely different story. Not only does it look super nice with some really cool stickers as well, but it also comes with a dedicated trigger finger hand, and the peg that's on the handle is also super secure. What's a bit less secure though is the E-pack on the back, which is removable but a little bit too easy to remove, let's say. In terms of moving parts then, we of course have a moving scope, a moving handle, and a barrel that can get shorter and longer. All features for the transformation of course. Once hooked up to the Zeta Gundam, it'll make for some really nice poses, and if you want to make them a little bit more dynamic, we also get this open palm hand, unfortunately only on the left side. And as you can see in the picture, we also get a pair of old school beam saber blade effect parts to hook up to the barrel. Then for defensive purposes, we get the Zeta Gundam signature transformable shield, which can slide in and out. Now, one cool feature that we're also getting here is that it comes with this extra grenade launcher that you can simply hook up to the shield and give the Zeta Gundam even more firepower. and then you simply attach it to either one of the arms. Then for the other accessories that this thing comes with, we get a dedicated action-based connector, which is very secure, and of course a small in-scale figure of the pilot, Camille Bidon. And now we got to the part of the video that I dreaded the most. The articulation, because somehow this thing is both over-engineered and under-engineered. The head is on a single ball joint, so it goes up a little, down a little, and rotates around all the way. That's all it does. The shoulders then are on a simple peg, so they'll rotate around, and that is that. You move this flap up, then the arm can go up nicely like so. The shoulder armor itself can also move a little bit out of the way, not that it's super necessary. Then it'll rotate around below the shoulder all the way, bends at the elbow on two joints all the way like that, and then the hands are on ball joints, will wiggle around, turn around, and do everything a ball joint does. So far, nothing too spectacular. And the waist then is where the scary stuff begins, because it does go a little bit forwards and backwards, side to side, but it all feels very flimsy, floaty. It's like, I'm scared I'm going to break something. And especially the side-to-side movement already feels very flimsy out of the box, so I really wonder how that's going to be down the line. Now, what is absolutely over-engineered is the way those front skirts and side skirts are connected. The front skirts are on a ball joint and locking hinge joint combo, so while it does work nicely for both the transformation and the leg articulation, I feel like there could have been an easier and less scary solution for that. And then this whole setup is connected to the same joint that the side skirt is connected to, so all of that can move separately. And talking about the side skirts, those are on ball joints which will rotate around and go up and down until they inevitably disconnect, because this thing disconnects super easily. Well, it also connects super easily because of that. The legs then go nicely forwards, although this is a joint that really does not feel good to move. Also, another thing that really likes to come apart, the wings. When you're moving this thing around, this here in particular is going to come loose all the time. Like, literally the only reason this hasn't fallen off is because this joint here slots onto the tail binder. But at the same time, this does now make it very easy to illustrate the absolute insanity that they did with the backwards leg movement and the back skirt. Now, the backwards movement of the legs is very easy to illustrate. There is none. But for some reason, it has an articulated back skirt. Another thing that's then very scary to do is the outwards movement, because going up, again, it feels a bit mushy, not very fun to do. And then when you pull it back down, if you're not careful, instead of just moving the leg down, you bring the whole transformation mechanism down. So I'm going to move this very carefully, and then inevitably this is going to happen. Then you have to put that back up, and yeah, it can be a bit of a hassle to pose this thing. Then they'll also rotate around all the way. They bend at the knee on two joints, and we do have some nice armor separation right there. And then the feet are also a pretty limiting factor. Forwards movement is basically non-existent, because that is as far as they're going to go, and in fact, it's barely enough to keep the Zeta Gundam standing because of the back weight. The backwards movement is somewhat better, and that's the first time that fell off. We do, of course, have a toe joint because of the transformation. We do have some side-to-side movement. It also rotates around a little bit. And then, of course, this flap goes up and down, just as this flap also goes up and down a little bit. So overall, the Zeta Gundam ends up being quite when it comes to articulation. It's not the worst I've seen, but for a real grade, I would expect better. I was able to make some nice poses, but some of them I couldn't get just quite the way that I wanted. And now on to the other thing that I was very worried about, the transformation. So let's start that montage. And after quite a few sighs and having to decipher the manual because I wasn't quite sure what the hell it wanted me to do with all of those joints, I actually didn't have that bad of a time transforming this thing. It wasn't necessarily fun, but I've had worse. I was also surprised to see that everything locks into place quite nicely. Oh, and one more cool thing is that not only do we get an opening cockpit as per usual, but during the transformation you flip a switch to change the orientation of the inside of the cockpit just as it does in the anime. Not too shabby for a 1/144th scale. All of that being said, I will repeat a comment that I've seen quite a few times. Pick the mode you want it in and keep it in that mode. With every transformation, your chances of breaking something increase. Even when being super careful, I've already spotted stress marks on parts before I even transformed it once. So as always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? And well, even though I had a lot of fun with this kit, I can also see why a lot of people won't. It really boils down to what I said in the beginning. If you're looking for a challenge, this kit is going to be a blast. For everyone else, you might want to consider getting one of the many other Zeta Gundam model kits. Just not the Master Grade 1.0, because believe me, if you think the real grade is flimsy, you'll be in for a nasty surprise if you accidentally buy the 1.0. Also, I've seen a lot of people jokingly call this a plastic hand grenade, but last time I checked, a hand grenade is really simple. You pull the pin, and boom. This feels more like dismantling a time bomb. It's stressful, time-consuming, and one wrong move could ruin the whole thing. So for some comparisons then, first of all, here it is next to the old and new high-grade Universal Sentry. And I guess this might be somewhat of an unpopular opinion, but the real grade really managed to become my favorite 1/144 scale Zeta Gundam. Next up, here it is next to two real grades that I would recommend you to get if you're interested in trying out the real grade line. The OG top tier real grade, the Gundam Mark II, and one of the latest and greatest real grades, the Force Impulse Gundam. And then finally, here it is next to the standard size Gym Custom and the always bulky Zaku 3. But I gotta say, the Zeta Gundam is doing a pretty good job at keeping up with the bulk of the Zaku 3. So that has been all for this review of the Dark Souls of Gunpla. Again, if you want to try it for yourself, links down below. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.